Hello, welcome into another Monday night edition of the Wolverine live on our YouTube channel. Also, after the fact, wherever you get your podcasts or your shows, whatever, wherever you get your audio content, we are there. I, of course, am Anthony Broome along here with Chris Balas and Clayton Sayfie, as we are every Monday night here at 6 p.m. on the Wolverines YouTube channel. Uh, Probably a little bit lesser of a show today. We're gonna lead with basketball. We'll get into some of the Super Bowl stuff, and then at the end, time permitting, and I think we will have time. We will do the Q&A with you guys. So feel free to get yourself in line for that. Of course, you can move yourself to the front of the line by using the donate button below. But fellas, let's get right into it here. I want to start with basketball tonight. This was setting the stage for that game Saturday. Michigan had won 3 straight games. You're finally, I won't say back in the good graces of the fan base, but at least they put themselves back into position to play a game that matters, to play a game that has postseason implications. And when the 2 hours was up and the dust settled, it was a basketball game that we have all watched 7 or 8 times this year. Michigan loses by one, 62-61 to Indiana. It was another quad one game that they let slip away. It was just like Virginia, just like Kentucky, just like North Carolina. So many missed opportunities this season. And again, I know I've caught some heat on our message board for even suggesting that there is a path to an NCAA tournament. I mean, fact of the matter is, if we just want to talk about the mathematics of it, this has to be a clean week for them coming up. The game tomorrow night at Wisconsin, game Saturday against Michigan State. But guys, sitting at 14-11, this team simply is what their record says it is, and it's very little indications from my end that things are going to change on that front.
Yeah, until they figure out how to win some of these close games, but there's no indication that they're able to do that. And you know what? When you make the same mistakes down the stretch that you do in the it's really the end of halves, right? The end of the first half that we've seen this so many times. The end of games. Virginia, remember that terrible turnover? I think it was Jalen Llewellyn, who's obviously not there anymore. But they're giving possessions away at inopportune times, and they're only at 9.8 turnovers per game. So they are taking care of the ball overall. I think that's sixth in the country. But when you are giving the ball away when you can least afford to, then you're going to lose ball games. And really, that's what it comes down to. John Beeline once said, you know what, it might not be the end of the game play that costs you the game, though. You've got to value every possession. And I will go back to Doug McDaniel when they're up 7 with a no-look pass, that starts a run for Indiana. I think it was an 8-0 run. It got him right back in the game when it looked like Michigan was getting ready to put the thing away. And that just cannot happen. And it continues to happen. And it's maddening. So it's unfortunate because really a season without an NCAA tournament is like a year without a Santa Claus, right? It's just there's no reason for it. And it shouldn't happen at a school like Michigan. It happens everywhere. But you know what? They've got enough talent, in my opinion, to be better than they are. And we keep waiting and waiting and waiting. So going to be very interested to see how they come out on Tuesday night at Wisconsin to see if they roll over or to see if they're like even more desperate. I really, really hope it's the latter, Clay.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to watch. Hunter Dickinson took the podium after the game on Saturday, and he said that, yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be tough for this one not to linger. Well, they have a pretty quick turnaround here. They're already on their way to Madison, and they have to figure out how to bounce back and play well. Now, Wisconsin's coming off of a heartbreaking loss, too, that may well be the one that does them in for the NCAA tournament. They were closer to the bubble than Michigan, which is amazing because Michigan looks like a better team to me. But, I mean, yeah, it's like one of those things where you lose by one and you look back and you say Hunter Dickinson's layup at the 5:12 mark was Michigan's last points. I mean, it's incredible considering especially that they were in the double bonus. I thought they could have attacked the rim a little bit more, put some pressure there and try to pick up a foul. Trace Jackson Davis was absolutely gassed by the end of the game. So I thought they could have got one on him. But you mentioned Doug McDaniel. He had that turnover. And really, it wasn't turnovers that killed Michigan in the final 8 possessions, just the one terrible one by Terrence Williams. But, and I'm certainly not placing all the blame on Doug McDaniel, but, to me, it kind of, that game, underlines the importance of having a veteran, savvy point guard that knows where to go with the ball, knows how to get his guys good shots. Hunter Dickinson attempted one shot in the last 5 minutes. Doug McDaniel is doesn't quite control the flow of the game yet on the offensive end. And I think that'll come in time. I mean, Derek Walton certainly didn't in 2014, nor did he have to. But by the end of his career, I mean, everything went as he did. He controlled the entire pace of the game. So that will come. But I think that hurt them. And then Juwan Howard talking about it after the game as well, that a lot of guys were freelancing out there and basically, not running what he was trying to call. And there, if you noticed a couple times, where they're supposed to get to an exact spot, with precision in this offense. And there were a couple times Doug McDaniel, Kobe Buffkin, they were a little off. Jawan was yelling at him, you could see down the stretch. And they kind of didn't go exactly where they were supposed to go with the ball, that sort of thing. And he called him out for it after the game. And I thought that was not called him out, but just said basically that they got to trust a little bit more what the coaching staff wants. And I thought that was completely warranted and fine on Juwan Howard's part. But I'm watching Purdue on Sunday. They have 6 turnovers in the last 3 minutes in a loss to Northwestern. Freshman point guard, Smith there for them, and they weren't able to get into any offense late in the game. 13 second half turnovers. So it's happening. It's just unfortunate for Michigan that they have no margin for error, and we're still seeing the same types of issues. But Wisconsin game will be really interesting on Tuesday. A similar team that hasn't been able to close out games themselves. They had a 17-point lead, I believe, on Nebraska, and then blow that game on Saturday in overtime in Lincoln. So certainly a winnable opportunity on the road. But yeah, I mean, if you would have had that Indiana one, you would have felt really, really good going into this week, because I think they can get both of these, but now they're kind of behind the 8 ball again.
Yeah, even that last play, Anthony, when it was kind of a half-assed pick by Hunter Dickinson at the top, and Galloway's able to stay with Kobe Buffkin as a result. And when Clay talks about precision, I'll come right back to that. You know what? You've got an opportunity there, and the shot that you get is a desperation heave where Buffkin has to send it back up top to Jet Howard. So really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, I'm so tired of talking about attention to detail things with this team on, the day before Valentine's Day. Like you're not even on the NCAA tournament bubble right now, and they're making mistakes that we watched them make, not just in November, but in large part, a lot of things they were doing last year, in terms of attention to detail and effort. And that's where, again, guys like Hunter Dickinson and Terrence Williams, I'm not going to lay it all on their feet, but Chris, you just talked about it, kind of a half-assed pick at the end of the game. And then there was a sequence before that where was it Kobe Buffkin and Terrence Williams passing the ball back and forth to each other like the scene out of Semi-Pro? Like, back to you. Okay, no, back to you. Back to you. Now back to me.
People won't appreciate that. That was a great pull.
No, I mean, it's this team doesn't have, it has captains, but I don't know that it has leaders. I don't know that it has a go-to guy that you have in that situation. And for me, I think the most damning thing you could say about this team right now is that, I'll stop short of saying Juwan treats his team with kid gloves at post-game press conferences, but to my recollection, I can't remember a time that a team has directly been thrown under the bus like that after a game. I mean, straight up saying that, guys weren't running the sets that were called or freelancing or taking their own variations on it. Now, I would also counter that with maybe you should call some better stuff. Maybe there should be a simplification. I think people don't realize at times that, Juwan does run some complicated stuff. I mean, it is NBA caliber stuff in terms of the attention to detail and the, just the minute things you have to do. There's blame everywhere. I mean, they're sitting here at 14-11, and I know they can puff their chest out of being just a game out of second place in the Big Ten, whatever it is. But this is day one stuff that they're still kind of failing to lock in at all times. And it's on the players, but it's on coaching too. I don't know. It's tough to even sum up, just because, again, we've watched this game. I watched this game a couple times in November. I watched it a couple days before New Year's when they lost to my alma mater. It's just these brain farts that this team has. At some point, yeah, that's on the players, but there's just a systemic brain fart late in the halves is really what
something's off. Something's wrong. And, there's a quote out there, or somebody put out there, there's a stat 13-6 in the previous 4 years before Howard got there, where they were 13-6 in one possession games against high major teams or overtime games. 3-9 since then. And part of that, of course, two things. You've got a Hall of Fame coach in John Beeline who's been doing it for 35 years, 40 years. So you're going to get better in time, right? So to say that, you expect Juwan Howard to be as good in those situations as John Beeline was when he's much more experienced as a head coach isn't realistic. At the same time, you know what? You can't. Some of the possessions that they have, the empty possessions. It's one thing to have an empty possession, but to not get a shot because of such a lazy pass. That Terrence Williams entry was ridiculous. And then going back to Williams, I thought, I still think he's learning. Juwan Howard's learning when it comes to personnel on the floor and feel of a game. And again, that comes with experience. And I'm not being overly critical, in my opinion, when I say that. But you could tell, man, something was off with Terrence Williams from the get-go. He wasn't, the things that he normally does well, the effort areas, he wasn't boxing out. He wasn't, he just wasn't on his game. So I really wouldn't mind seeing more of Will Cheddar, somebody who can maybe stretch the floor at the 4 position. He's usually a net positive when he's on the floor, right? And I understand that he's getting in foul trouble too, but you know what? Let him out there and let's get him some shots too, man. Set some things up for him because that guy can shoot the ball. I remember him in high school being able to shoot the ball. I'm not saying give all of Jace Howard's minutes to him, but I'd like to see a little bit more of him too. He had a play that should have been an and one. We can go back to any number of plays in that game too.
Mhm.
You know what? If that one goes the right way, if you get the home whistle or the right whistle, then you win that game anyway. But let's see a little bit more of that and stretch the floor and get some other guys some opportunities because right now what they're doing isn't working, guys.
Yeah, I don't see the reason why we wouldn't see more Will Cheddar. And I think what did he play? Close to 10 minutes in this game. And I think it's
Mhm.
another Will Cheddar type of game against Wisconsin, which also plays a couple big guys. So maybe we'll see him more on Tuesday night. But I mean, and I'm a big Terrence Williams fan. I think he's a very good kid and everything like that. And he's played well and made big plays during his career here. But at what point is he not giving you enough, to have him out there with just over a minute to go in a game that I know Joey Baker didn't give you a ton. I know Cheddar, was decent, but maybe not necessarily the guy you want in late. I would have gone with Joey Baker, who they subbed in after that turnover. But at what point is, Terrence Williams shooting less than 30% from 3, a guy who led the team or led returners in 3-point field goal percentage coming into this season? At what point is that not enough? They're helping off of him. He's kind of the guy that teams are leaving wide open and doubling, down in the post on. So he's been a liability at times this year. He finished minus 11 in the box score. I know that's a stat that you can cherry pick because, it's not every bucket that's being let up on him when he's in and, he's not missing every shot, but he missed a few crucial ones. I don't remember how much time was left on his 3 he was just wide open. It would have been a perfect opportunity, I believe, to take back the lead when they were down 1 down the stretch there, and they weren't able to do it. So I would like to see a little more Will Cheddar. I'd like to see them maybe mix up that lineup there. And you're right. I mean, Juwan Howard, sometimes, every coach gets questioned on why is this guy in or, why did that guy not play in the first half, but he did in the second, that sort of thing. You hear it down the road at Michigan State, talking to my Michigan State friend or fan friends, what's Izzo doing with this sub, that sort of thing. So it goes on everywhere, even with Hall of Famers. But, I feel like there could be a little bit better situational awareness when it comes to who's in the game, why they're in the game, and when they're in the game.
6 minutes plus 8, and that's not an anomaly with Will Cheddar. If you look at that box score, I mean, it seems like every game. In fact, I'm going to go and do an article on this tonight and just go back and see what the plus minus is when Will Cheddar's on the floor. And you, like you said, you can cherry pick this, but if it's week after week after week after week or game after game that he's on the plus end, or one of the higher ones on there, then I think it kind of tells a story.
Well, and that's the point I wanted to make too, is it's more of an overarching thing. When you're sitting here, in mid-February in a press conference saying guys were either not running what was called or taking it on their, doing whatever on their own accord. How about some accountability for that? I'd have to go back and watch the game, but I don't know. I can't recall, a major substitution. I know that they took Terrence Williams out late. They were using the 2 big lineup a lot. But if guys aren't doing what they're being asked to do, they shouldn't be on the floor. So, and I don't think that's a problem that's exclusive to this Indiana game on Saturday. I think it's kind of been an overarching thing as well. And hate to say it, have to call a spade. a lot of it's been Jet Howard late in these games too. So it's kind of a mess right now. Season is not over by any stretch. Probably looking at a situation where you have to go at least 4-2 down the stretch and then get 1 or 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament. And, when you look at what this schedule looks like moving forward, you have Wisconsin twice. You probably need to grab both of those. You have to beat Michigan State on Saturday at home, and then see if you can't pull a fast one at Rutgers, at Illinois, at Indiana. But again, it's just the DNA. I think what we've seen from this team in these showdown type of games is what their DNA is right now. It's just not where it needs to be. And again, you don't take away any team's accomplishments. Like last year's team, I know it was a rough year, but still found a way to get to the Sweet 16. But if they don't play a Rick Barnes team in the round of 32, we might be having a very different conversation about where things are at right now. So you just have to kind of let it play out. You're not going to see any of us write columns about, put this coach on the hot seat or so-and-so should enter the transfer portal. But this is not, we talk about Chris, just to address the point about, learning on the job. This is year 4. I don't know that, again, to follow up a guy like John Beilein, when you do the Mount Rushmore of coaches at University of Michigan in any sport, he's on it as far as I'm concerned. So to follow that up, it's a tough act to follow. But when we're sitting here in year 4 saying that, maybe the head coach doesn't quite have a feel for substitutions or drawing up late game situations, that's a problem. So any final thoughts on basketball for me?
Yeah, there was one game, what was it, where Jet Howard made a lazy pass at 17 minutes and sat for 10 minutes in the second half. It might have been Northwestern. I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I thought, okay, you know what? That's accountability right there. And Michigan expanded their lead. I think they were up by 17 points or 12 points or 15 or whatever it was when Jet went out. And I thought Jawan sent a message. And you know what? I think he could do some more of that too. There are times that Jet, he pulls these NBA threes, off balance. Sometimes they go in. Oftentimes they don't. You'd like to get a better shot at some points where you're like, man, that's a terrible shot. I can't tell you how many times though I've said terrible shot next to Clay up there, and Clay, and it goes in. I'm like, well, it's still a bad shot.
We just start laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, okay, but there are, when you're early in the shot clock, things like that. There's really no need for it. And those are the empty possessions that I'm talking about, that at the end of the game, man, you wish you had that one back. And that was absolutely the case on Saturday. But so, yeah, he's starting to get it, in my opinion, in terms of substitutions. But again, man, you know what? Too many missed opportunities. And I guess at this point, fellas, I don't expect it to change. I don't know if you guys do, but I think they kind of are what they are at this point, and we'll probably be covering an NIT.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that, a lot of it does probably come down to youth. I think Jet Howard's shot selection is one of the bigger things holding him back right now, and maybe not for the NBA because you could just say, well, he's not gonna be shooting everything when he's paired with all these pros that have been in the league for a while. So maybe not NBA wise, but holding him back from being a great player. I think he's a really good college player on the offensive end of the floor right now, but his efficiency could even improve even more. Decision making is big there, and then going back to my earlier point about having a point guard that can control things, I think that would help everybody out, including Jet Howard. If he had a veteran guy in there, let's say, and we don't have to, I hate doing stuff like this because then everyone's like, oh, well, every point guard should be Xavier Simpson. But let's say Xavier Simpson was the point guard of this team with Jet Howard. One, I think Jet would be playing better defense. His captain would demand him of it. And two, I think that, he would get better shots. He would maybe pass up a good shot to get somebody else a great one, that sort of thing. I'll end with this, though, in terms of I have a question for you guys. I mean, Hunter Dickinson says that last 5 minutes in Michigan blowing that game basically erased all the progress they had over the previous 2 weeks, winning 3 straight games, leading for 34 minutes in this game against Indiana. Juwan Howard disagreed with him. I thought I disagreed with him, too. I mean, they still played pretty well. The offense didn't click as much as you would have thought, but I think defensively they played well against Indiana. They've gotten a lot better there recently. There's still progress here, and I'm not claiming some moral victory or anything, but just watching the games and seeing this team grow, I do feel like we've seen some growth. So, Anthony, I'd push back a little bit, maybe even on your statement that it's a mess right now, because, yeah, they're not in a great situation, but I do feel like they have taken some strides. And would you guys think that the progress they made, if you want to call it that, and maybe you could disagree that they even made progress, it has been erased by the end of that game?
Only in terms of what it means for their tournament chances, and that's the way I took it. What he was saying, like, okay, we really had an opportunity here. We put ourselves in position to be in position, and we could have gotten over the hump. Now we're basically starting from scratch again, where we're going to have to rip off 3 in a row or whatever to get back to where we were. So that's kind of the way I took it from what he said. But yeah, I can see some minor improvements, some in some areas, some major improvements, especially defensively. But what I wrote, and which is going up in a column here in about a half an hour, is we're going to know tomorrow night what the progress really is. If they come out with the Penn State effort, when they and they lay an egg after they lost to, I think it was Purdue, and said, "Oh, screw it," and lose at Wisconsin the way they did at Penn State, then that's a huge step back. If they can find a way to win that game, then I think they are, if they go 4-2 in their last 6 and win a couple in the Big Ten tournament, then at least they have an outside shot at the, maybe a play-in game or something like that. So tomorrow night's going to be telling for me.
Yeah. I guess my final thought would be, that's more how I took it in terms of things being a mess. Like your postseason outlook is a mess. Michigan should be a team that makes the NCAA tournament. And this is where I won't say it's forgivable, but this is a thing where, if you can just continue to play, above 500 basketball the rest of the way. And, if you make the NIT, it is what it is. I wrote about it last year. Last year was a struggle, but it didn't have to be. It could be viewed in a different way if it was the start of something. If most of the guys came back and you use a whole offseason to apply the lessons that you learned and move forward. I think that with this group, that's a lot more likely than it was with last year's group because of Caleb Houston and Moussa Diabate. But we'll see what happens. I mean, you're going to know. It's going to go either way. It's going to be either like the Northwestern game, or I could see where it's like the Penn State game where you come out and you get blitzed, coming off a heartbreaking loss. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what to expect. It seems like every time we have this team pegged for something, they come out and rattle off a couple in a row. And then when you say, okay, well, maybe now it's the turning point, then they step back a bit. And that is emblematic of a young basketball team too. So I think that's the key in all of this. Like if this is something that's applied to equity in the future, if, Doug McDaniel has a better command of the offense in, 2023, 2024, then you're saying, well, you can look back on a year like this and saying, well, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. He got to play more, but we'll see what happens. A lot of basketball still to be played. A good week in this conference puts you right back in the conversation. A bad week at this point is probably a killer for them. So before we move on, we'll talk a little bit of Super Bowl, and then we'll also have time to take some of your questions. So whether it's football, basketball, whatever's on your mind, start lining those up here in the chat on YouTube. I do want to start off by taking a quick pause and talking about our friends over at Rogue Shop. You guys know Richard and Charmaine at this point. They've been a great sponsor, great partner of ours, going back to football season, now through basketball season. Two folks we really enjoy working with a lot. Rogue Shop operates out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and they work to not only grow and manufacture, but also educate customers and the population about the positives of THC-based medicine. So if you're someone who has trouble with pain, anxiety, depression, they have a wide array of products for you guys to look into. You have Delta 8, Delta 9, CBD, THC, all lab direct without middlemen. Some of the psychoactive products they carry are gummies, moon rocks, pre-rolls, as my dog just trudges through construction area in my hallway here. Flowers, dabs, diamonds, lollipops, hard candies, tinctures, you name it. We've had them send us gummies. They've sent us the pain creams. They've sent us the tinctures. All of it has been top notch and high quality and handcrafted and from a small business too. We like to support small business owners and the value that they add to our brand and how we can help add value from our perspective. So we have a promo code for you guys using promo code The Wolverine that'll get you 10% off over at rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. Fellas, I've been singing their praises here, but I know you guys have a lot to say about them as well.
Yeah, you guys know I've had issues with my dog lately, and I went with the CBD, the pet CBD, and that's really helped. So hoping for the best there, but it's really helped with some of her anxiety. Had some changes around the house, so and I also started using the drops for myself. I got to tell you, I've never slept better since we formed a partnership with these guys, and they're very much appreciated. And like I always say, they're great people, and I always have an easy time supporting and promoting great people with great products, and that's what we've got here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. If you're stressed out thinking about Michigan's tournament chances, pop a CBD gummy and just kind of relax. Watch some other games, do something, get your mind off of it. It's a great product and great people, as Chris said. I mean, couldn't be happier to be partnered with them, and they've been great to us.
I, of course, have an anxious dog here sitting to my left at the moment, so might have to look into some of that for her. But promo code the Wolverine for 10% off at rogueshop.com. Again, that's ROGUESHOP.com. That's my spelling exercise for the week. Check them out. They've been wonderful with us, and Richard is frequently on our message board answering questions from you guys, and they have a chat function on the site where they are available 24/7 as well. So be sure to explore that. Shout out to our friends over at Rogue Shop. All right, well, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk some football here on a Monday night. The last football game any of us will watch for, whatever it is, unless you're a USFL or XFL guy, which the Michigan Panthers are playing locally this year. So we'll see what happens with that. But the NFL played at Super Bowl last night. 4 Wolverines in total played in the game. 3 of them walk out Super Bowl champions in Chad Henne, who retired after the game with Bud Light in hand. Baller move on his part. Also Michael Dana and Frank Clark. I know everyone's talking. I'll just kind of let you guys vent about it because I hop onto the video chat today, and you fellas are talking about the holding call at the end of the game, and I don't know what you guys thought about Rihanna, thought about the commercials. Just here's your forum to sound off all things Super Bowl. So Clayton, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad call at the end of the game. Eagles look like the better team for most of it, but as Hutch, our great producer, who's a diehard Eagles fan, I feel really bad for him, but he was saying basically they got to play better defense than that in the second half. I completely agree. I thought Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy made some great calls at the goal line as well, but they did get bailed out by that call. Congrats to Chad Henne. I mean, what a guy, made, I think, $38 million in career earnings. It didn't take a beating, and he's going to have a fantastic retirement. He goes out on top as a 2-time Super Bowl champ. And I saw this on Twitter, so I cannot verify, but 2 Super Bowl championships for Chad Henne. I believe that's more than any Ohio State quarterback has all time. Is that right? Someone tweeted that.
I think it's more than Aaron Rodgers too, is it not?
Or does he have 2 or just 1? Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers just has one, doesn't he?
So
poor Timmy
Chad
B.
Henne. Now, he didn't appear in any of those games, I don't think, but
he was there.
Yeah. Frank Clark, it was cool to see the emotion on his face in post-game interviews. Mike Dana, who was kind of an X factor for them this year, he battled injury a little bit, but I think he had 5 sacks in the regular season. And then Brandon Graham, who said, we will be back next year for the Eagles. They got a lot to sort out in free agency, but Brandon Graham was fantastic this year. 11 sacks, the most in his career during the regular season, which is crazy to say because he's 34 years old and has already had an outstanding career. But happy for the Chiefs that won it. I was rooting for the Eagles. The best part of the night was the coin toss going tails, though. Tails never fails, baby. So I came out positive.
Was that the only prop bet you won?
No, I had a couple more. I had A.J. Brown to score, so that hit.
Okay.
I did have the Chiefs winning, so that hit. I had a couple long shot parlays that did not hit, but they were long shots.
You earned enough to buy us some beers when we go to the Big Ten tournament.
Exactly. I came out positive. We'll be buying green beers at down in Chicago. So
yeah. What day is that? Thursday? We'll see if we're still there Thursday.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it might just be a 1-day stay.
Who knows? I don't want to be negative, but you know what? Mike Dana, man, what a story that is, right? And you wonder if Josiah Stewart will follow that same path, right? When coming from Coastal Carolina, and if he can have that kind of an impact, and that'd be fantastic. So, it'd be fun to watch. But it's a great game. I hate to see it decided. And everybody's like, oh, he admitted that he held him. I'm like, yeah, he pulled the jersey a little bit. It doesn't make up for a holding call. The guy was being a good soldier. He probably didn't want to get fined by the league by saying, hey, it wasn't so whatever. It was a crappy call. I would have liked to see the Eagles have one last shot to go down and either tie or win it. But not all their fans are as nice as Hutch, I guess. Let's put it that way. I saw Bill Burr's outburst. I don't know if you've seen that one, Clay. And
no,
if you haven't,
but he's not an Eagles fan though.
No, so that's exactly right. You got to go back and watch Bill Burr. Just Google Bill Burr Philadelphia, and that's everything you need to know about Philadelphia fans.
Okay,
yeah,
good. And real quick, I was just looking at the PFF numbers. Frank Clark had 3 pressures. That is second to Chris Jones, who had 4 pressures. But I want to say Kansas City had 1 sack, and it was forcing Jalen Hurts out of bounds. So I mean, there was 1 sack in the entire game. So Frank Clark had as much impact on pass rush as you could have. And then Mike Dana had a nice block on that defensive touchdown, the fumble recovery. So they did make some plays there. I know, we talked about their seasons as a whole, but both those guys actually did have an impact on this game too.
Yeah. I thought we were going to see Chad Henne for a minute late in that first half after, they said for 2 weeks, Mahomes, it's a miracle. His ankle isn't showing any signs of wear. And then the second he takes a hit, you see him hobble off the field. So I was wondering if we were going to get a Chad Henne moment. And he earned that ring. His that 98-yard drive he had against was it the Jags?
The Jags,
that's his moment.
And then last year he had the third down completion, right, where he got in there, and in another series that helped them keep a drive alive. It was huge or 4th down play, I think it was. So yeah, this guy wasn't just a clipboard holder. So happy for him, and I was really rooting on Clay on his other prop bet. 3 guys, I think it was 2.5. In other words, somebody else had to throw a pass besides the 2 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And when Mahomes got hurt, I was like, all right, Clay, we got this. And
so that was the one where I was kind of betting on not only Chad Henne, but also a trick play, which would have been fun
right.
too. Philly special, maybe something like
that. Right.
But it was kind of a Chad Henne bet in the back of my mind. And it's too bad that one didn't hit, but came out positive. Hey. Tails never fails. 7 out of 10 for Tails.
Yep. And call 1-900 Clayton Sayfie for your.
I got nothing but winners here.
Nothing but winners. 55%.
Anthony had some action too.
Yeah.
No, I was a happy boy in terms of the bets I made.
Good.
Wound up dipping the point spread to Kansas City plus 7.5, and then the over under to like 45.5. So at a certain point, I think it was like halfway through the third quarter, I was feeling pretty good about that one. So other than that, just normal square action. Definitely lots of again. Can we put that? I know Super Bowl Sunday is it's a holiday, but that Super Bowl Monday is an all-time hangover day. We need someone, when I'm president, that will be the platform that I run on, is the Super Bowl Monday. Everyone gets off. So
but we wouldn't get it off though anyway. So
we're always
screw everybody else. I want them working too if I have to.
Married to the game. So anyways, any other thought? Last real football game. Sorry, XFL. Sorry, USFL. We'll see until Michigan's opener against East Carolina. So, lingering thoughts. Any other final thoughts on football season? And
didn't there used to be a lingerie league or something? Women's league? Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
No, you're right.
Am I allowed to say that? I
was just laughing. This is the LFL.
I know.
Question.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still around. I'm sure you could find a pop-up of it somewhere. But
yeah, well, I want to be careful about what I Google.
Some clips, please.
Coach, can you grab that clip? Yeah.
Exactly. He values his job too. So anyway, I think I would rather watch that than either the XFL or the USFL. Where are the Panthers playing this year?
Playing at Ford Field.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we'll get down there, guys. We'll go buy a beer with Clay's winnings, and you know what? I'm going to get a shirt because I love the colors and I love the memories of when Anthony Carter and those guys were playing back in the day. So good times.
If you could find like an Anthony Carter like Michigan Panthers jersey, I would find it and like shadow box it.
Awesome.
Put it in the office here. So
fantastic.
So I think honestly questions are pretty light.
Well, do you want my final thoughts? We got 47 days until the Michigan spring game and 201 days until they play East Carolina. So football is kind of around the corner. It's crazy, 47 days, but spring practice next Monday. So we'll be talking about probably some spring practice storylines maybe later in the week, or at the very least on the show next Monday. So football's coming, boys. Football's not that far away.
That's good.
It's arguably the I won't say the best time. We love watching the games, but speculation season and storyline season and draft season even is it keeps that news cycle going throughout the year. So I guess we'll do a quick final call for questions here. No one's really sent any on in today, but
that time of year, boys.
Dave says we're too depressed.
Dave,
about
you read my mind, Dave. Exactly. So that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I feel like we should have titled this video like free beer or something instead of Michigan basketball. Maybe more people would have tuned in to watch.
All right.
But,
it's all good.
Boy Howdy says, by the way, you guys are great. We appreciate that. Abe Awad says, as long as the offense goes through Hunter Dickinson, we will continue to struggle. He is not the end all be all. People make him out to be. Well, that's probably a conversation for another show. We'll see what happens.
Well, here's something on that, though. They didn't get him the ball at the end of that game when they were struggling. So, I mean, I agree, though. It is tough when you have a big guy as your main force. And again, watching the game on Sunday between Purdue and Northwestern, they're trying to go into Edey, and when he doesn't know where to go with the ball, he just throws it to nobody, and they turn it over. So it's tough for teams that have to play through a big. I've said that for years, including in that UCLA game, Hunter's freshman year when they lost in the Elite Eight. It's like, man, they had nobody that could go get a bucket. So, but who do you play through on this team? I thought it was smart to try to get Kobe going towards the basket on that last play. But, he stopped, and, they didn't get quite what they wanted out of that pick and roll action. So, I think they got to get him more involved, though, in a stretch like that. You can't have him only taking one shot. He couldn't believe it when someone said it to him after the game. He said, oh, wow, like I didn't even know that was the case, which is crazy.
Yeah. And fair or not, he hasn't been as good around the rim as he used to be. He's rushing some shots. Take your time, kid. You know what? Take your time and put it up and in, man. There are times that it looks like he's throwing it, instead of the touch that he had a couple of years ago when he was a freshman. Even I thought he was better around the rim. I'd like to see some stats on that. Maybe one of you guys can write an article on that. So
yeah, I was actually looking at that the other day. This is before the Indiana game. They're actually really, really similar.
Okay.
And I was a little surprised by that too, because he is drawing more attention right now. But Synergy has a stat around the rim, and I think it was actually higher than last year right now, which is again surprised me. I do feel like he's shooting less of those little short jumpers and short rolls off the picks and things like that. He is drawing more attention, though. I mean, there are guys around him, and we talked about it earlier, but Terrence Williams, people are helping off of him. People are going under screens on Doug and Kobe, and rightfully so. And I think that has made life a little bit tougher on him. If he could have had a Livers or a Franz or someone like that to open things up for him, I think I think he'd be better for it, and obviously so would the entire team.
Yep, we'll see what happens.
Have a $1.99 super chat here from Boy Howdy. He says, any chance U of M might circle back on CJ Carr?
Nope.
Given that Jadyn Davis is dragging his feet.
Nope.
Certainly, I mean, from EJ's reporting, it seems like there is a desire to kind of expand the board, but I don't foresee CJ Carr being part of that for a litany of reasons. So
yeah, number one, he's signed with Notre Dame, right?
No, he's just committed.
Oh, he's not signed yet. That's right.
He's at 24.
That's right. He didn't commit early, but regardless, no. Let's just put it that way. I think that ship has sailed. And I don't see that happening. I don't think Michigan was very high on him, to be honest with you. And that's just the way it goes. So I love the kid. I wrote an article about him, and I said, hey, it makes a lot of sense. But, wish him all the best, except when he plays Michigan in the playoff here in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, and thinking about Jadyn Davis's recruitment too, I mean, from an outside view, just watching it unfold, reading our guys' report on it, does feel like it's starting to drag on maybe even to the spring here. March is just around the corner, so
how dare you?
It certainly feels that way from an outside view.
How dare you? No. Next.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I know typically, from a recruiting perspective, you want your guy for that class to usually be locked in by like April or May because those guys are the lead recruiters. So of your class. So we'll see. Steve Sherrick says, how about that Luke Hughes goal on Saturday? Yeah, hockey, absolutely en fuego right now. I think they've won 7 in a row at this point to compare for Michigan State in a chippy series over the weekend. It cost them one of the Fantilli brothers did not play on Saturday. He had the Gordie Howe hat trick in that Friday night game. But Chris, I know you've been kind of following hockey. What's your estimation of that team right now?
That their young guys are starting to play together and really, you know what, you expect a good team, a well-coached team to improve with their young guys throughout the year. That's exactly what they've been doing. And the Luke Hughes goal with 0.6 to go to break Sparty hearts was beautiful. What a game. And they're 7-0 since Evil Sniper 4 called me out on the board for suggesting that Brendan Naurato should have the interim tag removed, and he said how dumb I am because they were 5-5 at that point after I said they should take it off, and boy, they ripped off 7 in a row. So that needs to happen. You know what, for recruiting purposes and everything else, he's the guy. It's clear that these guys like playing for him, and that he's got that, the Red Berenson lineage there in terms of he's one of Red's guys. I love that. So take that interim tag off, Mr. Manuel, and let's get this guy here for good.
I don't think that's going to happen right away, though. Do you? I mean, he moves slow on these sorts of things. I remember men's gymnastics had an interim coach for the entire season, either last year, I believe it was last year, or the year before. And he won Big Ten Coach of the Year. And only weeks after that was he named the full-time head coach. So I think he moved slow on that. Now, what about like a little a move to motivate these guys going in the NCAA tournament? Could be something.
I'd love it. Yeah, come on, man.
That'd be great.
I think it'd be fantastic, and he's earned it. I'm not just saying it because, hey, they won 7 in a row. I think he recruits extremely well.
You said it before he won.
I did. Yeah. I said when they were after they were 5-5, and somebody asked me if I changed my tune on that. No, because you know what, this team, and right now is a critical recruiting time too. I think it was our Bob Miller, our hockey guy, that said, you know what, they're looking at these kids for the next recruiting class, and it's time to, you know what, these kids need to know who their coach is going to be. I'm sure they're saying all the right things, but you really want to have that certainty. And so, hey, the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we'll see. Not going to be well, I shouldn't say not. It's a chance we're not covering postseason basketball after the Big Ten tournament, so it'd be fun to cover some postseason hockey. But fellas, I think that's gonna do it for us tonight. Of course, the 3 of us will be back for our regularly scheduled Thursday show. A little programming note. John Borton and Tom Crawford are moving to Wednesday to account for a basketball game tomorrow night. Don't want the show to age poorly or age out too quickly. So that'll be Wednesday night at the normal time, 5:30. EJ and Zach Libby will be live Tuesday and their normal time, 7 o'clock. And EJ's recruiting chat on Wednesday will also be at 7 o'clock. So small change of the schedule this week. We'll be back next week. On the start of spring football. So I'm sure we'll have some football stuff to talk about. So you can sign up for a subscription for the Wolverine for $29.99 through the start of football season, August 31st, 2023. Be sure to like the video below, subscribe to our channel, go find us on all of the podcast platforms and subscribe to us there. Leave us a positive review, only positive reviews. But for Clayton Sayfie, for Chris Balas, I'm Anthony Broome. Thanks to producer Hutch behind the scenes. We will talk to you again soon.